The bells of Jerusalem are ringing, as the First Crusade is at an end. Christian forces have achieved a significant military victory in recapturing Jerusalem and the Holy Land from Muslim control. As celebrations of jubilant victory are celebrated by the Crusaders, they are yet to realize that a much darker, more bloodied conflict awaits them in the immediate future. This is because a group of Templars have discovered an ancient evil, and this ancient evil, along with their own lust for power, is about to bring about a cataclysmic conflict which will define all of creation. Welcome to the world of Trench Crusade. Trench Crusade is a skirmish-scale tabletop miniatures game created by Mike Franchina, an illustrator who worked on games such as Path of Exile, Diablo 4, and System Shock 3, as well as Tuomas Pirinen, a Finnish game designer. The world they imagined was one where the battle between heaven and hell has found its way into the year 1914. 800 years after the war began following the First Crusades, when a heretical band of Templars defied the Almighty, put aside their vows, and opened the gates of hell upon the world. The result is a grimdark universe of such in-depth and exceptional lore that I felt it was worth taking a deeper dive into this world for both myself and curious viewers such as yourself. A quick note on what this video is and is not. This video is an organized gathering of the canonical lore from the official lore primer and playset rules. It is not an introduction to the actual tabletop game, but only the lore it is centered around. This video is also not fanfiction. It is a reorganization and paraphrasing of official source material. Any speculative lore will be made clear that it is indeed speculative. Otherwise, it is canonical and directly pulled from the source material. This video is also not intended to be the definitive guide to everything Trench Crusade, as it is being made before the game's official Kickstarter has even begun, and therefore in short time it will contain information which is limited in scope compared to the full scale of the universe. I do hope, however, this video can be a timeless starting point for anybody looking to get into the lore of this world. This content was also created for a very mature audience, so viewer discretion is highly advised. With all of that out of the way, let's dive in to the world of Trench Crusade. The First Crusade, launched in 1096 and concluding in 1099, was a pivotal military campaign initiated by the Catholic Church to reclaim Jerusalem and the Holy Land from Muslim control. Catalyzed by Pope Urban II's call to arms at the Council of Clermont in 1095, the crusade attracted a diverse army of knights, soldiers, and peasants from across Europe, driven by religious zeal and promises of spiritual rewards. The culmination of the First Crusade was the Siege of Jerusalem in 1099. After a protracted and brutal assault, the Crusaders breached the city walls and took control. The establishment of the Crusader states, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem, marked the successful conclusion of the First Crusade and initiated a period of Latin Christian rule in the Holy Land. The story of the Trench Crusade universe begins following the conquest of Jerusalem. Following the conquest of the Holy City, the Knights Templar discovered a demonic artifact beneath some of the ancient temples, which corrupted the Templars who discovered it, and these Templars began communing with the demons who spoke through the artifact and performing unholy religious rites. This event is known as the First Heresy. The lore also references an event known as the Act of Ultimate Heresy, which opens the gates of hell upon the world. Although there is no reference as to the difference between the First Heresy and the Act of Ultimate Heresy. Either way, the gate of hell is opened and Jerusalem is destroyed as a result. 2 years later, in the year of our Lord 1101, the year of 3 battles occurs. The heretics, men and demons who fight for the forces of hell, spend this time conquering most of the Levant, a region in the eastern Mediterranean which includes the modern-day countries of Cyprus, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. Following this, the city of Antioch is fortified and turns into the central point of resistance against the armies of hell for the church and mankind. 8 years following the centralization of resistance forces in Antioch, a group of men known as the 17 Martyrs traveled into the earthly domains of hell to convert the heretics back to the faith. but they were instead captured and are now kept within hot white brazen bulls, now and unto eternity, or their rescue. The 13th century would see the church suffer through the wars of Draclavianism, which would cause internal conflict and schism within the church, allowing for the heretics to expand their territory. These events would lead to the death of millions over the course of the century. Although the exact nature of the wars of Traclavianism is yet to be revealed at the time of this video's making, Traclavianism is a word for the belief that Jesus was crucified using 3 nails, which goes against the more commonly held Catholic belief that he was crucified using 4 nails. This means it's entirely possible that the church was having a theological dispute, which led to war and schism, but this is speculative. 40 years following the events of the Wars of Traclavianism, Beelzebub, a major demon present throughout the scriptures, unleashes a plague known as the Black Grail upon the world, turning tens of millions of people into metastasized vessels. The Black Grail's timeline is the same as the timeline for the Black Death or the bubonic plague in our timeline. The major difference in this timeline is that the Black Grail can reanimate its victims into deceased soldiers for the forces of hell, leading to an event named the Corpse Wars. The resolution of this conflict would not come until the year 1429, where Saint Joan of Arc would drive the Black Grail out from mainland Europe. More than a century later, in the year of our Lord 1545, the great resistant city of Antioch would be destroyed entirely by an infernal weapon of unknown origin and nature. This would lead to the construction of New Antioch, the ongoing focal point of the church and the faithful. In the year of our Lord 1666, named the Year of 6 Woes, the newly crafted heretic naval fleet captured Gibraltar, becoming the central base of operations for the heretic army against all of Europe. This would lead to England constructing what would become known as the Fortress of the White Cliffs, although there is no details on what this fortress actually is. The next 2 centuries would see significant grounds gained by heretic forces, who successfully destroyed the fleet of England while simultaneously constructing and deploying the world's first submarines, which would cause global famine through their destruction of merchant navies. These successes would lead to heretic forces launching a conquest against mainland Europe following the storming of the city of Rijeka. This would all culminate in the Year of Broken Trinity, numbered in the year of our Lord 1894. During this year, the Death Commandos of Hell would simultaneously assassinate the Supreme Pontiff, the High Prophetess Aliyah, and the Holy Roman Emperor, throwing the Church and the faithful into turmoil and chaos. The Church would gain ground back over the next 2 decades, however, by successfully launching the Church space program in 1899, constructing the moving fortress of Britannia in 1907, and fighting heretics to a stalemate at the Battle of Cordoba in 1910, preventing the heretics from gaining access to the heartland of Hispania. This would all lead into the present setting, the year of our Lord, 1914. Trench Crusade takes place in a World War I trench warfare setting. The following map, courtesy of Reddit user Deditrans Potashi, shows the general geographical area that the lore and Crusade encompasses. Technology-wise, the power of both Heaven and Hell allow each faction to have unique sets of ancient and modern weaponry. Thanks to the devoted followers of Saint Eligius, the patron saint of metalworkers, the Holy See's weaponsmiths and armorers were able to create steel alloys imbued with divine radiance, metals more durable than standard steel. These craftsmen have produced massive and durable suits of armor out of this metal. Meanwhile, the Heretic Legions have harnessed metals from the infernal forges of Tartarus, which surpass ordinary steel in strength but come at a dire price. Wielding such weapons or donning these cursed armors inflicts searing damage on both body and soul, resulting in perpetually festering wounds that never heal. Because of these breakthroughs, melee combat is quite common in the Trench Crusade. However, rifles, machine guns, grenades, and artillery are all commonplace as well. There are also religious items, such as the helmets of the observers of the Synod of Strategic Prophecy, which allow them to hear the voice of God, which imbues great power at great cost. This is only one example of how the faction's powers and abilities create unique and esoteric lore for units and thus creating a unique brand of warfare. Standing for over 300 years since the destruction of Antioch in 1545, the sword and the shield of Europa and Africa, the Principality of New Antioch, is the first line of defense against the forces of hell, and the only thing standing between those forces and the conquest of the entirety of the Levant. Following the destruction of Antioch, the Sword Congress of Vienna resolved to reconstruct and strengthen the city in the year of our Lord 1559, establishing a yearly tithe to be sent to New Antioch by all loyal nations. However, this tribute is seldom monetary. Instead, it comprises a continuous flow of provisions, tools, ammunition, weaponry, machinery, and skilled labor from across Europa, the Mediterranean, and the African territories. The city functions under the governance of the Office of the Propagation of Virtue. Although they are lenient towards the soldiers of the city, they otherwise ruthlessly prosecute any infraction of church doctrine. The weekly executions of heretics has become a grand, highly attended public event as a result of this zeal. Within the city's techno-laboratories, the church diligently works to forge superhuman disciples, known as communicants, by using the cloned flesh and blood of Christ to endow them with extraordinary powers. Holding the title of Duke of New Antioch, and therefore emerging as the nominal supreme commander of all of the faithful's armed forces, is an unparalleled mark of honor and prestige, with the current holder of the title being Duke Constantine. Although he is the supreme commander of the faithful, most international troops fight under the command of their own leaders. But the army of the Principality is still the single largest fighting force against the forces of hell. The Observers are an order of warrior monks who spend almost the entirety of their lives within the Temple of the Word, where, in absolute solitude, they sharpen their minds to become the ultimate weapons in the hand of God. Only when the need arises are they summoned by the Synod of Strategic Prophecy. These observers wear helmets that are called Oculus helmets, which allow them to attune to the voice of God. This allows them, to a limited degree, the ability to perceive past, present, and future simultaneously. However, the unending reverberation of the divine echo in their ears makes sleep unattainable, compelling them to rely on powerful sedatives and mind-altering drugs to endure the grueling demand of their battlefield duties. The observers rigorously refine their recitation of the words of God, endowing them with the authority to command both allies and enemies alike. Their specially crafted helmets enhance the Holy Word's power, compelling any creature to obey their commands, if only briefly. Even the smallest lapse in their focus can cause them to lose the voice of God that guides them, leaving them as vulnerable as any ordinary soldier. As the war against hell raged on, the faithful encountered a nigh impossible problem to solve. Due to the supernatural power of the gate to hell, the vast majority of individuals could not approach it, meaning that the faithful could not take the fight against hell to hell itself. In order to combat this, the church began a secret program, intended to create warriors of such physical prowess and internal holiness that they could undertake missions within the very depths of hell. This program was named the Paladin Program, creating members of the Mentalist Order which are imbued with the blood from the Metachrist program. Although we aren't entirely sure what the Metachrist is, communicants are described as having consumed the cloned flesh and blood of Jesus Christ, and therefore it's safe to assume that a Metachrist is a clone of Jesus. Paladins dwell in hidden cells, within a secretive wing of Castle Sant'Angelo, until the Council of Saints summons them for battle. When their time arrives, they leave their isolation, proceed to the arming chamber, and kneel on the mosaic of the militant Christ the Lion. There, they are equipped and armored by blinded and gelded serfs to prevent any impure gaze or desire. After being briefed on their mission by one of the cardinal generals, they receive the last rites in advance, as no task is more perilous than war within Gehenna itself. Initially, there were 12 paladins, but only 9 survive today. 2 have perished in battle, and rumors suggest that one may have turned coat, though the church fiercely refutes such claims under penalty of death. Despite relentless attempts, the Holy Mentalist Order has failed to create a single new paladin in 3 centuries. Each of the 9 circles of hell presents a unique and hazardous environment, ranging from toxic fumes and intense heat to frigid temperatures far below freezing, necessitating specialized armor for each circle. When a paladin ventures into the gates of hell, they face the grim reality of succeeding alone or perishing, since no one will be coming in to assist them. Because of these risks, paladins are deployed on direct orders from the Council of Saints and are used with extreme caution. Lieutenants lead small squads or platoons within New Antioch's forces. Lieutenants are often the scions of noble families, or have achieved their rank through exceptional skills on the battlefield. Beyond their leadership duties, lieutenants are also tasked with procuring new weapons, equipment, and supplies for their units, which often involve scavenging from the battlefields of no man's land or raiding local settlements. A sacred warrior who tends to the spiritual needs of the soldiers in the unit, the cleric recites uplifting battle prayers and can perform miracles like healing or striking down foes. The cleric typically carries a portable shrine on his back, symbolizing his devotion to the company's patron, whether it be one of their homeland saints, a powerful archangel, or the Lord himself. These followers of the church practice ritual blindness as an act of devotion to God, relying solely on their faith to combat the church's enemies. During the siege of St. Lux, there were tales of a sniper priest who, despite his blindness, managed to eliminate a target from a distance of 3 miles. Standard troops of New Antioch, these brave men and women have undergone basic training and pledge allegiance to the Duke of New Antioch. While they may not possess the advanced combat skills of elite forces, their sheer numbers and diverse array of weaponry compensate for their lack of specialized training. Assault troops who excel in breaching enemy defenses, specializing in swift, aggressive attacks and close-quarters combat. They are adept at integrating various combat techniques and using fire team strategies effectively. Combat engineers focus on demolishing bunkers, locating minefields, and constructing battlefield positions. They are equipped with close-range weapons and reinforced steel armor. Despite the high casualty rate within their ranks, they view it as a privilege to serve and sacrifice for New Antioch and the Church. These heavily armored soldiers are tasked with handling the company's heavy weaponry. Chosen from the elite ranks, they undergo substantial chemical enhancements to boost their combat capabilities. The Sisters of St. Cosmas are an elite medical unit with advanced training, specializing in providing first aid and performing surgeries directly on the front lines of the Great War. The Sisters pledge a modern version of the Hippocratic Oath, which requires them to assist all injured soldiers of the faith, regardless of the severity of their condition. Equipped with a combat surgical knife that also functions as a misericordia, a tool historically used by battlefield medics or surgeons to quickly and humanely end the suffering of those who are beyond saving. They are skilled in both saving lives and ending them, for those found wounded in no man's land. They carry medical kits stocked with a wide range of battlefield medications, effective at alleviating even the most severe pain and helping soldiers return to the battlefield. The Papal States forces, which answer to the Supreme Pontiff of Rome rather than the Duke of New Antioch, are occasionally sent to the front lines for specialized missions, such as tracking down and neutralizing high-profile heretic leaders or retrieving spiritually significant artifacts. They are commanded by warrior monks and priests chosen personally by the Pope. What we know in our world as Ireland, Ire is a bastion of the church and a staunch adversary of the forces of hell due to relentless and destructive raids by the heretic navy. The Emerald Isle has suffered from famine, been devastated by the Black Grail, and faced a full-scale invasion targeting the renowned House of Manuscripts, which houses many sacred texts. After enduring a century of fierce battles against the invaders, the warriors of Ire have become experts in guerrilla warfare. The elite warrior hunters of Ire are often viewed as godless troublemakers, but their skills as skirmishers make them valuable recruits for war bands that journey to New Antioch to combat the enemy. These warriors display grisly trophies, such as the skulls of their fallen foes, in a manner reminiscent of their pagan forebears, much to the disdain of the church. When the poet King O'Connor sends his renowned rangers to support the Principality of New Antioch in lieu of paying the annual tithe to Vienna, the Duke eagerly accepts these formidable fighters in their place. When there is a requirement to neutralize a formidable enemy stronghold or launch an assault on a particularly formidable defensive line of trenches, the Duke of Antioch frequently relies on the renowned shock troopers units from the Free State of Prussia. These elite forces are frequently tasked with missions from the princes of the church or the high command of New Antioch. Admission to this elite unit is determined entirely by merit. Applicants must be exceptional athletes, under the age of 25, unmarried, and have demonstrated remarkable aggression on the battlefield. Shock troopers have the highest casualty rate of all Prussian soldiers. These new recruits swear the following oath: to each his own, to me, death. Originating from the Scottish Highlands, these individuals come to New Antioch seeking glory, absolution for their sins, valuable loot, and direct combat with devil worshippers. The heretic submarine fleet persistently attacks the kingdom's shores, abducting their young to be sacrificed at the dark altars of the archdevils. Fueling a profound animosity towards the forces of hell, their British neighbor's fleet and its renowned mobile fortresses are focused on defending their own coasts, and this leads to friction and resentment from their northern neighbors. It is a stark truth that a third of humanity has bowed down to the idols of hell. The primary earthly military force of Satan, the Heretic Legions, is composed of individuals drawn from these condemned souls. Those who have witnessed the war-torn lands inhabited by the Heretic Legion describe the grand idols of the golden calf and the fervent people who bow before them, offering themselves as sacrifices in violent rituals. In their cities, towering structures of iron and black stone stretch down into deep pits. Inside, sacrificial altars are set up where captives endure prolonged suffering over days and weeks with harsh tools made from dark, infernal materials. Majestic cathedrals dedicated to the princes of hell are supported by massive volcanic arches, while the condemned are displayed on inverted crosses. Becoming part of the army of damnation is a formidable challenge. To secure a spot among the heretic legions, one must undertake a journey to the gates of hell. From even a great distance, the intense fiery heat radiating from this immense structure scorches both body and soul. Those who reach the vicinity of Hell's Maw are deemed worthy and are admitted into the legions. They pledge unyielding oaths that bind them to the darkness forever, their bodies marked with the devil's sigil, signifying their eternal allegiance. Some individuals push beyond the gate. Their flesh ignites in the process, never to heal, but those with the darkest souls can enter the very inferno itself. These anointed are held in the highest regard within the legions, having traversed the cursed path of the shores of the lake of eternal flame, where the damned suffer endlessly. The anointed return forever marked by the abyssal flames. Their scorched and blackened flesh remains permanently damaged, but in return they are allowed to don heavy Gehenna armor and gain the strength to wield weapons that would be impossible for an average man to wield. Although the majority of the heretic legions consist of mortal humans, hell frequently dispatches its own repugnant offspring to bolster the ranks of these human soldiers. In this accursed battlefield, mortals and abominations advance together, united by the torment of their damnation. Making up the majority of the heretic army, heretic troopers have seen the gates of hell and survived, damning them for all eternity. Heavily armored and protected assault troopers, the anointed heavy infantry have scorched and blistered skin from their ritual journeys to hell and back. Warwolf assault beasts charge through the miles of barbed wire to clear paths for the heretic infantry. Their designed head is built to slice through the obstacles effortlessly. Artillery witches roam the battlefields, launching munitions created in the death factories of Hell's Third Circle. They are entirely silent, and their faces have never been seen, with speculation that they may not even be alive. They can summon an endless supply of infernal bombs from a self-conjured portal to hell. From a young age, a chosen few heretic youths are sent beyond the gates of hell to be trained as death commandos. Residing in the seventh circle of the Inferno, they receive instructions in the lethal arts of assassination from the souls of history's most notorious killers whom are trapped in hell. Additionally, they are taught martial skills by the elite guards of Archdevil Baelith, and their Tartarus claws are drenched in lethal poison from the waters of the River Styx. At the conclusion of their training, the tongues of the death commandos are ceremonially removed, that they may never share the tortures they've endured. Instead of speaking, they use a sophisticated system of cryptic hand signals to communicate with one another. Among the most notorious death commandos are Cain, the man who committed the first murder by killing his brother Abel; Barabbas, the murderer whom a crowd chose to free over Jesus Christ before the Lord's crucifixion; and Haman, the man who attempted to have all of the Jews in the Persian Empire killed before he was stopped by Queen Esther. It is unknown if the three men in the lore are exactly the same as their biblical namesakes. These three men, in the year of our Lord 1894, executed the Supreme Pontiff, the High Prophetess Aliyah, and the Holy Roman Emperor in a coordinated strike. This caused chaos within the church forces and enabled the legions to swiftly advance across the Levant and Europe. Due to the YouTube terms of service, I won't be going over the choristers. If you'd like to know more, you may look them up in the lore primer in the comments. Once you read up on them, you'll understand why I didn't include them in this video. The leaders of the heretic army's warbands, the heretic priest is one who wields various dark magics, invoking terrifying demons and creatures through goetic spells. Typically, they are bound to a demon lord in hell. The profane gospels they chant instill such fear in church forces that they can cause physical damage to the faithful. The Heretic Fleet functions as a semi-autonomous force, led by its high captain and various admirals. The Heretics maintain their own marine infantry, which frequently operates in small groups to penetrate deep into enemy territory and carry out hit-and-run missions. They are constantly searching for captives, loot, intelligence, supplies, rare artifacts, and opportunities to showcase their cruelty and savagery. One of the most fascinating units in the Trench Crusade universe. Trench ghosts are the results of heretic troopers dying on sacred ground or in the presence of an untainted holy relic, causing them to become ensnared between realms. Belonging to neither heaven or hell, these trench ghosts become undead, attacking both the faithful and heretics alike while following orders that no living being can hear. Their faces are obscured by gas masks that serve no purpose for them anymore, as their bodies and minds are condemned to endure the horrors of war forever. Legends speak of numerous trench ghost warbands that haunt no man's land, but the most renowned are known as the Ghosts of Tannenberg. As the faithful wage war against the forces of hell, some individuals find themselves touched by heaven itself, gifted visions and revelations. Sisters of the Holy Orders, marked by stigmata, wield both sword and cross as guided by angels, as others seeking to atone for their sins aim to drag as many followers of the devil as possible with them into the afterlife. Thus, trench pilgrim processions have formed containing the deranged and the wounded, the divinely touched and the guilt-ridden. These disorganized groups follow the prophets of the Lord to the front lines, fighting with unmatched fervor. Most of the pilgrims are individuals with little military training, but once they don the iron capirote of a trench pilgrim, they can confront even the most fearsome demons. Death does not always end their mission either. Occasionally, the seventh Metachrist may judge a fallen pilgrim as worthy and resurrect them as martyr penitents, beings which exist between heaven and earth and are capable of fighting without feeling pain. Each procession maintains its own unique characteristics. The Path of Pious Revenge, dedicated to Saint Olga, employs flamethrowers, incendiary grenades, and burning ammunition. The Pilgrims of the Iron Path, who follow Saint Rita of Cassia, arm themselves with hammers, mauls, maces, and cudgels, and drive nails into their own heads to honor their saint. The Theban Legion of Rome, devoted to Saint Maurice, engages in combat with swords and other blades. A formidable leader, war prophets are inspired by visions of Armageddon. Their sermons and prophecies motivate the pilgrims to move from one battlefield to another, aiming to counter the forces of Satan and achieve martyrdom through combat. Assigned with instilling the fear of God among the troops, castigators are officers of orthodoxy, whom ensure that the soldiers remain righteous while disciplining those who stray. They are shielded by their steadfast faith and the saints they venerate. Communicants are individuals who have ingested the flesh and blood of a Metachrist, empowering themselves with the divine essence, causing them to increase in size and for their wounds to begin healing miraculously. Even though they are blinded, their vision is remarkably enhanced, with blessed crosses nailed through their eyes to signify this blessing. On the battlefield, they serve as line breakers and protectors for prophets and castigators. A sacred warrior of the trenches, a trench pilgrim believes it is his spiritual duty to journey to holy battlefields and combat the heretic legions. Either captured foes of the true faith or volunteer sinners, ecclesiastic prisoners are chained individuals who advance through the Great War with the fervent hope that their sacrificial charge will somehow purify their corrupted souls. They charge in with an explosive device to bring forth an explosive martyrdom, although some manage to survive the blast and continue the battle. The stigmatic nuns are devoted holy sisters who bear the stigmata, wounds identical to those of the third Metachrist whom they revere. Stigmatas are physical wounds, scars, and pain that manifest in places mirroring the crucifixion wounds of Jesus Christ, with the most well-documented stigmatic of our world being that of Saint Padre Pio. The stigmatic nuns excel in close combat, and their devotion to suffering turns their wounds into a source of power beyond that of ordinary humans. They venture across no man's land without fear, praying for wounds that honor the Redeemer, which then transform them into instruments of divine vengeance. A massive suit of armor, powered by diesel and faith, Shrine anchorites are towering metal giants, standing about 12 to 15 feet tall, serving as formidable war altars, nearly impervious to damage. Inside, the anchorite is lined with spikes and barbed hooks, keeping the monk pilot in a continual state of suffering, which they embrace to mirror the pain of their lord. The outside is adorned with religious icons, sacred relics, and prayer scrolls, all in line with the customs of the Pilgrim sect to which the anchorite is dedicated. Hundreds of these battle machines were created under St. Methodius' supervision, but the knowledge of their creation has been lost since the monastery was ruined by a death commando attack. Upon the passing of the monk or the nun whom pilots the anchorite, whether by battle or by age, their remains are carefully collected and preserved in reliquaries attached to the anchorite, turning each of these war machines into a tribute to its enduring history of combat against the forces of hell. Each anchorite wields an adamantine Catherine wheel and a bonebreaker mace to unleash divine wrath upon sinners, heretics, and apostates. As an act of devotion and penance, it is a widespread tradition for trench pilgrims or stigmatic nuns to be broken by the wheel and spend their final battle mounted upon it. This act symbolizes their readiness to endure suffering for their sins and is believed to provide spiritual protection to the anchorite. Although the church disapproves of this practice, pilgrims eagerly gather around their anchorites before any battle, hoping to earn the privilege of dying on the wheel. Trench pilgrims from the procession of the Sacred Affliction are renowned for their ability in close quarters combat. Their armor is adorned with religious icons and their shields display images of the saints which are resistant to machine gun fire. They carry millstones on their backs, which they use to bind around the neck of sinners before submerging them in the mud and blood of no man's land. They also do not cover their faces, believing that faith alone is sufficient to face the terrors of hell. The Cavalcade of the 10th Plague, named after the final plague in the Book of Exodus which brought about the death of Egypt's firstborn sons, traditionally sacrifices lambs before engaging in battle, using its blood to anoint themselves as a means of protecting against divine wrath. Devoutly adhering to the traditional interpretation of the holy texts, they reject the new doctrines introduced by the Metachrist. Additionally, they capture communicants from other processions and compel them to fight for them as penance for being born out of sin. Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, is distinct from other Hell Lords who primarily operate through their mortal agents. When he rises to dominance in the fierce conflicts among the Archfiends, he unleashes his most lethal curse, the Black Grail. The Black Grail harbors a relentless enmity towards all living things, infecting nearly all biological material and causing it to erupt with tumors and boils. It annihilates the body, while leaving the mind intact to endure the agony. Despite intense efforts by the church's scientist priests and the Sultanate's alchemists to find a cure for this vile disease, they have so far been unsuccessful. The only known remedy is to incinerate the infected settlements with specially designed flamethrower tanks that use consecrated oil as fuel. If this method is not employed, infected bodies of humans, horses, dogs, insects, and various animals rise again, driven by a demonic force to carry out Beelzebub's will, forming warbands to seek out and infect other life forms, and collect valuable items and gruesome trophies, which they present at the feet of Beelzebub's idols. Leading these warbands are the Knights of the Order of the Fly, degenerate individuals that willingly accept the Black Grail and whose devotion is deemed adequate by Beelzebub. In return, they receive weapons, armor, and gear tainted by the Archfiend's influence, in exchange for sacrifices made at the altars of Beelzebub. The Black Grail's malevolent influence emanates from Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies. It propagates through the insects he spawned in the 7th layer of Hell, unleashing a deluge of his vile essence through demonic pests, virulent infections, tainted insects, plagues, and other corruptions that desecrate both body and soul. Among those unfortunate enough to fall under the Black Grail's sway, some are tragically transformed into grotesque winged insects composed of bloated flesh through a harrowing fusion with hellflies. This agonizing transformation renders them heralds of Beelzebub, serving as winged scouts for the Order of the Fly. Heralds stand as the vanguards for the Black Grail, their resonant wing buzz instilling profound terror in their adversaries, eroding their concentration and resolve. They wield ancient weapons teeming with demonic worms that disseminate disease. Each tainted bullet possesses a sinister sentience, seeking out any fissure in the enemy's armor in order to penetrate the nervous system and infect its target. There are some individuals whom, upon the arrival of the Black Grail, called out to Beelzebub, hoping that the Lord of Flies will spare them if they offer worship and servitude. These individuals' pleas are ignored. However, a handful of mortals, extremely rare, truly embrace Beelzebub's vision of a world ending in a rotting, parasite-infested mass, perpetually plagued by the Black Grail's curse. Among these twisted souls, the most depraved are selected to join the ranks of the unholy Order of the Fly. Those souls are known as Plague Knights. Plague Knights rise through the Order of the Fly by transforming as many living beings as they can, which increases their rank and earns them more favor from Beelzebub. Of the most renowned Plague Knights, there exists a dozen, a number which exists in mockery of the Church's paladins, and they are honored as the Fly's top champions. They live in Ekron, Beelzebub's city, a horrifying place that even heretic lords stay away from. Most individuals who are infected with the Black Grail are turned into Grail thralls, joining the vast army of hollow, infected beings who are doomed to serve the Black Grail's nobles forever, suffering from numerous supernatural afflictions. A high-ranking official, the Lord of Tumors spreads decay and corruption to both allies and enemies. They enter a trance-like state to communicate with the Lord of Flies and are able to channel the power of the seventh circle of hell. Only the most resilient human followers can endure the blessings of the Black Grail. Those who succeed are elevated to the Corpse Guard, serving as elite bodyguards to the Black Grail's nobility. Should they prove their worth through exceptional service, they may eventually be granted entry into the ranks of the infernal nobility. Decayed canine carcasses infested with maggots and flies, the Hounds of the Black Grail carry out the faction's unholy mission. Their purpose is to roam no man's land, spreading disease and plague in the name of their Dark Master. An amalgam is a huge mass composed of dozens of infected fallen warriors, insects, mammals, and other living creatures that fell victim to the Black Grail's torment. These monstrous forms move across the battlefield like immense, bloated heaps of disease. Following the opening of the gates of hell, a summons was issued to those who held the Islamic faith, leading to a mass migration across Europa, Asia, and Africa over the following decades. Millions died along the way and at sea, as heretics attacked them like locusts consuming a field, devouring them and constructing dreadful monuments from their remains, preventing proper burial as prescribed in their holy texts. Once the survivors arrived, the great gates of Al-Quran were shut, and the great Sultanate of the invincible iron wall of the two horns that pierce the sky was established. Despite the ongoing conflict to defend the walls of the Sultanate, which leads to new martyrs each day and night, the Sultanate thrives within the walls. From mosques of white marble and gold, the muezzins summon the faithful to pray for the success of the Sultan's army as it fights to safeguard their territory. Although there is an agreement between the Church and the Sultanate to fight together against the armies of hell, in the Sultanate, there is a profound resentment towards the infidels who unleashed Gog and Magog upon the world. Military expeditions across the Great Iron Wall into No Man's Land are led by field officers known as Yuzbashi, chosen solely on merit rather than family background or wealth, often promoted from the Janissary Corps. Enhanced by Jabreen alchemical arts and mystic conditioning, Yuzbashi face enemies fearlessly, as their mental hardening makes them indifferent to pain and ruthless in battle. They are equipped with exceptional armor made of meteoric iron, silver-gilded carbines with alchemical ammunition, and killage swords inscribed with golden calligraphy. The most formidable carry hand cannons that also serve as halberds and may wear cloaks of their greatest kills, such as chimeras, to protect against Shaitan's power. Success earns Yuzbashi the Sultan's favor, bringing honor, Damascus steel weaponry, and access to Jabreen alchemical wonders. Hunting is also esteemed among their ranks, and artificial birds of prey and automaton hounds are used as effective weapons of war alongside the Yuzbashi. Alchemists are mystical practitioners of the Great Sultanate of the Iron Wall, trained in the House of Wisdom. Admission is open to anyone with necessary will and intellect, regardless of gender. Candidates face numerous trials on their way to mastery. Only after 7 years of rigorous study under the scrutiny of the High Alchemagi can an aspiring alchemist attempt the 3 trials required to achieve full membership in the order. The first trial involves crafting a suit of the alchemist's armor adorned with the seals of Solomon, allowing the alchemist to guard against even the grand mechanisms of hell. The second trial is to craft a Takwin servant, a homunculus imbued with artificial life and intelligence. This being will serve as a living tool for the alchemist. Though it resembles a small human, it can alter its body into a near-liquid state, allowing it to navigate alchemical chambers, even in extreme temperatures and dense poisonous fumes. Many aspirants fail at this stage, resulting in a malformed creature emerging from its golden celestial sphere, filled with animosity towards its creator. This monstrous failure will burrow into the alchemist's body, destroying their would-be master. The final test involves opening the third eye, which grants cosmic insight and the ability to perceive the fundamental elements of creation. Those who fail this test undergo horrific transformations. They are doomed to spend the remainder of their lives in torment, constantly screaming about the terrifying, unseen horrors now revealed to them. Out of compassion, alchemists who fail in this manner are often put down, though rumors persist of secret groups keeping these unfortunate beings alive for mysterious reasons. An alchemist who has successfully completed all 3 trials is a master of the arcane arts, able to control elements, craft mechanical devices, create artificial life, and develop weapons of immense destructive power. The Janissaries are the elite warriors of the Sultanate. They are made up of the young captured during raids beyond the wall, and undergo stringent military training and indoctrination into elite warriors. Through spiritual and alchemical methods, their minds are subtly controlled and conditioned to ensure absolute and unyielding loyalty to the Sultan alone. Their physical traits are enhanced by powerful potions made by using the mystical Jabrian arts. Their elaborate armor is made from a special metal formula derived by the Sultanate's alchemists. They are safeguarded by strong talismans created by the blind thaumaturgists from the school of the meteoric omen. Equipped with Jezzail rifles, hand mortars, Yatagan blades, and a deep-seated devotion, the Janissaries are truly formidable adversaries. Deep beneath the golden gardens of Damascus, one can encounter the great alchemists of the Sultanate. Through the Jabrian technique known as Takwin, alchemists can generate artificial life, crafting a variety of bizarre and marvelous creatures and automatons. It is in this place and through these means that the Sultanate crafts the dreaded Lions of Jabir. Named after the fierce hunters of the plains, the Lions of Jabir can take on various forms. Each one is a unique creation, crafted according to the skills and artistry of the Jabrian scientist who designed it. The arcane techniques used by the alchemists come from the studying of the forbidden books of Solomon, and many alchemists lose their lives when their experiments go awry. Designing the Lions of Jabir is a challenging task with numerous variables to manage, leading to frequent deformities. The most tragic cases are those lions who experience profound existential anguish as they come to understand the terrifying nature of their unnatural creation. The Lions of Jabir are formidable adversaries and serve as the frontline force of the Sultanate's army. The Sultan himself is protected by a personal retinue of 77 colossal Lions of Jabir. Their speed and ferocity are nearly unparalleled, and some possess unusual abilities due to their alchemical origins. Many are adorned with armor fused into their flesh, crafted with alchemical metals, inscribed with mysterious symbols, and elaborately decorated by the alchemists to conceal any flaws in their design. Ghost Wolves, the Secret Knives, and the Sultan's Wrath. These are the many names of the Sultanate Assassins, a legendary order of mystic warriors feared for their esoteric skills and ruthlessness. Though the Ismaili sect of assassins is considered heretical by many within the Iron Wall, a pact with the Sultan ensures they often serve in the Sultanate's warbands. These assassins possess the ability to manipulate space and time through sacred rituals and potent hallucinogens, allowing them to appear in multiple places at once, strike with incredible speed, and retreat in a flash. Their enhancements through powerful chemicals and potions makes them significantly taller, faster, and stronger than ordinary men. They carry out their duties in service to the Sultan, executing ritualistic holy murders of his enemies. While skilled with various weapons, they prefer poisoned blades crafted in Alamut. These blades are coated with supreme poison, known as the Milk of Manat or the Cup of Death, which guarantees death upon contact with unprotected skin. Young assassins are raised in deep underground chambers on a bitter, toxin-rich diet that increases their poison tolerance. Their blood is used to create poisonous iron, which is forged into deadly blades with enchantments. The Sultanate's vast lands allow for the raising of large armies from its many provinces, with 1 household in 20 required to equip a soldier known as an azeb. An azeb, meaning unmarried, serve as light infantry on land and sea and defend the Great Iron Wall against heretic attacks. For elite missions beyond the wall, volunteers are called upon, drawn by the promise of fame and valuable loot. Azebs use varied weaponry due to their lack of access to the elite arms and armor reserved for higher-ranking troops. They commonly carry jazales with distinctive curved stocks, which are handmade and can be loaded with different types of ammunition, including rough bullets, iron nails, or alchemical silvers from the Great Iron Wall. Other weapons include curved daggers, scimitars, pistols, and sappers' tools. Azebs are seen as expendable, with their deaths considered a path to paradise. Despite the high casualty rate and the harsh conditions in the trenches, new recruits eagerly enlist for the chance to serve the Sultan, fight the enemy, and return home with glory and riches. The Sultan's sappers are tasked with operating the cannons of the Iron Wall. Due to the tendency of their powerful artillery to overheat, they are often marked by severe burns across their bodies. Many have perished while manning their guns, succumbing to the intense heat and smoke. Protected by the Iron Wall, the Sultanate has long excelled in artillery. However, the heavy siege guns on the wall are impractical for smaller expeditionary forces. In the year 821 of the Hijra, Sultan Bayezid III commissioned a new form of living field artillery. The Jabreen scientists of the Royal Artillery House, after centuries of experimentation, created the Brazen Bull, or Boha, a powerful creature of war. The Brazen Bull, equipped with heavy artillery like flame cannons and volley guns, and blessed with holy blades, is designed to be an unstoppable force of nature. The Brazen Bull is covered in intricately adorned bronze armor with thrice-hardened scales, inscribed with protective talismans and blessings. On the battlefield, beyond the Iron Wall, it is a fearsome and imposing presence. Acting as a steadfast, unyielding shield and tower, it leads the Sultanate's forces. The Iron Sultanate and the Assassin Fortress of Alamut have a pact where the Sultan receives the services of the highly skilled assassins in exchange for Alamut's autonomy. While the assassins are known for their work with the Sultanate's forces, they also conduct secretive missions in No Man's Land. Led by Rashid al-Din Sinan, the ruler of Alamut, these missions are assigned through dreams rather than direct communication. The secretive warbands, called Fidei, undertake these covert operations with a master assassin and 2 experienced members, accompanied by trainee acolytes. The purpose of these missions remains unknown. Alamut also houses a renegade sect of Ismaili dervishes, warrior monks who join these missions as a form of piety and payment for their shelter. And there we have it. The entirety of the lore from the Trench Crusade universe, from the original lore primer and playtest rules. I hope you guys found this as interesting as I did, and that this video was helpful for those of you interested in either the game or this universe. If you have any suggestions for other lore dives you'd like to see, please leave a comment so that I can consider it for a future video. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to the next video with all of you.